Okay, I don't do a lot of training videos, but I ran into this little problem while trying to find a replacement battery for my Chicago Electric drills. I've got two of these drills and another one that's an impact drill. And over the years, the batteries have stopped accepting a full charge or will work for a little while, but they're not holding a full charge. And so, in trying to find a replacement battery, they no longer are making them or have discontinued them. I don't know what the situation is, but I've gone to Harbor Freight a couple of times looking for replacement batteries and can't find any. What they did have was this, and I'm hoping you guys can see this. It's a Drill Master 18 volt NiCad battery. It's only 1300 milliamp versus I think this one was about 1500 that came with the drills themselves. So it's a couple of hundred milliamps less. I don't know what that translates to as far as how long the batteries will work. But at this point, any kind of working battery replacement would be a good thing. I've already done 3 of these, and I'm doing a 4th one. I wanted to make sure that before I did any kind of video to help those of you out there who might be in the same situation that has several of these tools and can't find a replacement battery for it. So anyway, I bought one of these. They were only about $13, I think. And I said, well, worst case scenario, if it doesn't work, then I've lost 13 bucks. But if it does work, then at least I'll be able to use my drills and stuff that they no longer carry a replacement battery for. So I'm going to kind of take you through the steps that I went through to get them to work in these drills. Let me make a disclaimer that I am not an electrician, and this has not been endorsed in any way by Chicago Electric. This is just something that I did. It seems to work for me. I haven't seen what the long-term results are yet because, once again, I've only done 3 of them, and I've used the drills a few times since I've done them. They seem to work okay. So, your results might be different. I don't know. So anyway, let's get started. What you're going to need is, of course, a soldering iron, small screwdriver, a rubber band, and some electrical tape. All right. The big problem that you have is this is a different housing than the batteries that came with it. So you have to change the battery from this housing to get it to work in your drill as well as your chargers. So I'll explain what the rubber band is all about. So the thing to do is you got to find a screwdriver small enough to unscrew the casing off of the battery pack. Now I've kind of dropped these a couple of times, and so you might see some cracks in it. Hey, it happens. Stuff happens. So you separate this. There's a spring inside. Make sure you don't lose it. So if you want to take it and set it to the side, take that out. And when you open this up, you have 3 wires. You have a black here, and you have your red and your positives and your negative here. When I take the covers off, you'll see which is which. But you have this little black wire here, and then you have 2 other wires connected directly to the battery. So you need to go ahead and cut all of these wires. I try to cut them close to the battery so that I can have as much length of wire to work with as I can. Now be careful when you're handling this stuff, because if the batteries still have a charge in it and you touch the connections together, it could potentially short out and even start a fire. So once again, be careful with that. So So now that I've cut them, you can see that this is a black one, this is a red one. All right. So you want to strip those down because you're going to be soldering. Soldering is not a difficult skill, so I'm assuming that if any of you are going to attempt this, that you should at least have some basic skills in soldering, using a soldering iron. It's not difficult to do. So strip back these wires a little bit so you can get a nice solder connection. Okay. So now, this one. So, same thing goes. Now with these batteries, you got to be careful because they come pre-charged from the factory. So when you cut the connections, you want to be careful that you don't short them across each other. Okay? Doesn't matter if any of this stuff falls apart, you're not going to use it. So here you have your connections. So once again, you can either cut them off, or seeing that I've got my solder iron already hot, I'll just go ahead and unsolder them. This way I get the maximum amount of length that I want. Okay. With your electrical tape, this is just a good safety thing to do, because now you have two connections that if you touch them, they're going to short against each other. So I just like to wrap a little piece of electrical tape around this just for now. Okay. I'm going to just kind of peel back this wire a little bit too, just to give me a little bit more to connect to the solder, or to solder, that is. Okay. Now what I've done is I just connected all three of these together because they were all connected to the ground, or the negative connection of the battery. So I find, seeing that I don't have, on the other batteries it was connected, the black wire was connected along the side here. You can see where it was connected along the side here. But when I checked it with a a meter, I found that it was connected to ground. So I just connect all three of them together. So these two plus this one. Now they have some connections that I actually bought some the other day that some of you guys may want to use, which is it's a heat shrink with a low, if I had them I would show it to you guys, but they're available on Amazon and those places where you can actually use them and then you can shrink them down, and it's a low temperature solder that will seal the two wires together. But I find that they add maybe too much bulk because you don't really have a lot of space inside here. So if you add too much bulk to it, you may not be able to get the battery to close back properly. So once I've had it soldered, I'll just kind of cut away some of the extra stuff so I don't have a big a bump right there. So I cut away as much of it as I can, making sure that all the wires are nicely connected. And this is what it should look something like this. I don't know if the camera can see that. Okay. And of course, electrical tape. Now, if you have shrink wrap, when you want to use shrink wrap, you can do that too. That's, you just want to make sure that your connections are not going to short out against each other. So electrical tape will work fine. Like I said, if you have shrink wrap, you can shrink wrap it. Okay. Now, I showed you all before. I took off these things here because once again, it adds more bulk inside of the casing, and sometimes it's kind of hard to get the batteries to fit back in there. Okay. I showed you all the rubber band that you're going to need, and this is the reason for it. When you take these out, you got to be careful that they don't separate on you because they're kind of connected together in a weird way. And if they come apart, then it's a pain in the behind getting them back together. So I had to learn that the hard way. So I just take the rubber band to basically just kind of keep everything together until I'm ready to bolt them back in the case. So now that it's out of this case, I can take off this piece of electrical tape. I'll see if I can solder it like that. If not, I'll have to strip it down a little bit more to get a better solder connection, but I may be able to do it without stripping the wire down more. Because seeing it's only just the two of them. Before it was three of them. You don't want to wrap around. Okay. Okay. Once again, if you want to trim it down a little bit, just make sure you don't cut it back too far where you separate your solder connections, but you can trim it down just a little bit, which is what I did there. And as you can see, the camera can focus on that. That's what it looks like. And of course, electrical tape or shrink wrap if you have that. And now you simply have to get it to fit into the case. And there again, if the wires get in the way, you may have to kind of move them around just to try to get it to fit. All right. So once you get it in the case, now you can take your rubber band off and put the casing back together. This stuff here, is just simply laid across the top. And you can put it back there if you want to. So, just noticed something. One of my wires is in the way of getting the spring back on properly, so I'm going to have to remove this, get those wires out of the way, because the spring helps the unlocking mechanism. This wire was in the way, so Gotta push it to the side, get it out of the way. And if you have to take it out the case for any reason, my suggestion, put the rubber band back on it to help to keep it together. Okay. All right. I think that'll do it. Spring back on. Turn the solder off. I don't need that anymore. Make sure you don't have any wires pinched anywhere. Piece of the wrapping on the battery. Okay. Now, as you can see, you simply have to put the screws back in, and it will check it out and make sure that it is working. I'll just put 2 screws in it first and then try it in the drill, and if it works then I can put the other 2 screws in. Okay. And as you can see, it does work. Okay. And you know, this is a charger. Pop it in. You can see flashing red, which means that it's charging up. Once it's fully charged, it should go solid. So it does work in the charger. Now I've tried it with the other 3 batteries that I've done before. So hopefully this helps you guys out who have been having trouble finding a replacement battery for your Chicago Electric 18-volt tools. And like I said, you know, it may not be as long in duration as the one that originally came with it. I'm trying to find what I did with the packaging so I can show it to you again. Okay. And once again, this is the one from Drill Master, 18-volt NiCad battery. It's 1300 milliamps. I think the one that originally came with it was 1500, so it's a couple of hundred milliamps more. How that translates into how long it's going to last you, there again, depending on your usage, it may work for you, it may not. It's working for me. So hopefully this helps you guys out, and thank you for watching.